Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits Podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the First Omen cocktail. And it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with dark rum. I'm using Bacardi Gold rum. 2 ounces. Put that in our cocktail shaker full of ice. It's a lot of rum. I'm not mad. Next, pomegranate juice, 1 ounce. Black cherry juice, 1 ounce. Lime juice, 1/2 ounce. Simple syrup, 1/2 ounce. Bitters, 2 dashes. Why not? Then we're going to shake until well chilled. Next, we're going to strain in a glass filled with ice. I didn't fill it all the way because, you know. Alright, let's put some more ice in that. Now it is filled with ice. And then we're going to garnish with blackberries and cherries to give it a dark, ominous look, boys and girls. There you have it, the First Omen. You can also put rosemary and some dry ice, you know, whatever. You do you. It's pretty good. Fruity. Delicious. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
It occurs to me, especially after watching this week's movie for the Scary Spirits Podcast, 2024's The First Omen, that everyone views films, especially horror films, through the lens of their own baggage and perspectives. The First Omen hits hard for me, not only because of my deeply Catholic youth, but also because of my current feminist political stances. It's a double whammy. We both really like this movie. I mean, Greg basically obsesses over all things Omen, which is why I feel a little bit sad for Greg and all the details he misses out on by not growing up a young, impressionable Catholic schoolgirl. Maybe in his next life. Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg,
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm fabulous. How are you, Greg?
You're always fabulous.
I know. I'm a delight.
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
It's what we do.
It is. Karen, was this film my choice?
I don't think anyone will be surprised that it was your choice, Greg.
Well, if they are listeners
That's
regularly,
true.
they will not be surprised.
It's true. What film did you choose?
Film I have chosen, Karen, is from 2024, a film called The First Omen.
And why did you pick it?
Because, Karen, I love this shit. That is why. I love the Omen franchise, at least the ones we've seen and the ones I've seen. You haven't maybe seen all I have seen, but
I'm sure I have not.
I love the Omen.
Okay, that's a perfectly fine reason. Do you have a
It
drink
is.
to go with it?
I do.
And it's called.
The First Omen cocktail, Karen.
Oh,
Oh, I know. I should put Ave Satani right there, but no, I won't.
well, I'm no singer, but how would you make one of these?
Well, first I have to tell our friends and listeners that I generated this cocktail from AI. Blame my AI if it sucks, but I don't think it does.
So, what did you type in?
Please,
Of course.
please make a themed cocktail to go along with the 2024 movie The Last Omen. I'm pretty sure
So,
that's what I typed in. I can't be sure because I don't have it up right now.
so once you go through the ingredients, I want you, what makes this the first omen cocktail? Is it just
Because
because it's
AI
red?
says so.
Okay. All
That's
right.
why.
How would you make it?
So we're going to need 2 ounces of dark rum, 1 ounce pomegranate juice, 1 ounce black cherry juice, half an ounce lime juice, half an ounce simple syrup. And I used lime juice like Rose's lime juice. I did not use the fresh lime juice from the plastic lime. Half an ounce simple syrup, 2 dashes of bitters, blackberries and cherries for garnish, and ice. We're going to combine the dark rum, basically combine everything in a cocktail shaker with ice. Shake until well chilled, strain the mixture into a chilled glass filled with ice, garnish with blackberries and cherries to give it a dark, ominous look. Mine's
Well, that's
dark
what
and
it is.
ominous.
I couldn't find dark cherry juice, but I did have frozen cherries in the freezer, so I threw some in. It's fancy.
Optional for an extra eerie touch, Karen. We can, oh, your glass is much shorter than mine, I've
Yes.
noticed. But this is the same amount of alcohol, so doesn't matter. For an extra eerie touch, add a sprig of rosemary or a small piece of dry ice for a smoky effect.
Dry ice would have been cool.
It would have been cool, but whatever. It's stupid. It's
It's not stupid.
just smoke and steam, whatever.
It's fun.
And it
Greg.
bubbles, and then you have to worry about, oh, I can't let the dry ice hit my lips. But
No,
I'm
you,
drinking with a straw. You are not, though, because you're in an old-fashioned glass. I'm in a tall glass.
you're bigger than me.
All right. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own The First Omen cocktail?
Let's do that.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us of this film from 2024? I'm sure you remember 2024.
Well, as I get older, I don't know.
Uh, some things I try to forget, but it is what it is.
Anyway, I do.
Go on. Tell us all a story.
A woman starts to question her own faith when she uncovers a terrifying conspiracy to bring about the birth of evil incarnate in Rome.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match.
I was a little disappointed by that. It's okay, but
It is what it is. It doesn't really sell it, though.
no.
All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed or were pleasantly surprised by in this film. What did you really like? And please remember, we're trying to keep this to an hour, so go on.
We never keep it to an hour. Okay, first I should say I am not an Omen aficionado like you. So there may be things I like or didn't like that play into that because I've only seen The Omen in the times that we've watched it completely. I've seen clips
So
and
you've seen
pieces.
The Omen, Damien Omen 2, and The Final Conflict once each.
Yes,
Okay.
completely. I've seen bits and pieces over time, but I've not watched them multiple times. So what I'll start off by saying, I really liked this film. I think it kept the Omen feel to it. It didn't seem drastically different in its mood. I don't know, or however you want to say it. I think the casting was really good. The music is good.
Wh-
There's
Why do you think the casting was really good? Sorry to interrupt, Karen.
because I think everyone looked like you would think they would look in your nightmares.
But but we'll get to it. Go on.
There's really good shots in it, framing of shots, shadows, all that kind of stuff. Cinematography, I guess, and direction, I thought were good. I really liked certain parts of it that I wonder if you even, when we watch these types of films, I think I have a completely different experience with them than you do because I was brought up Catholic in a Catholic school with nuns.
I'm going to ask you about that later. Go on.
So to me, all of these things are kind of personal in a little, I mean, wasn't in Rome or anything. I'm not saying that, but this culture,
Can I stop you and ask you a question?
yeah.
Did you ever in your life ever think about becoming a nun?
No,
Okay. Just curious.
but when I was born, I think I told you it was traumatic. And afterwards, a very old nun in a habit laid a rosary over my head and said, "This one will be a nun." And my mom was extremely excited and then
Well, there's still time, Karen. There's still
severely
time.
disappointed.
There's still time.
Although there is one part in this movie where I laughed and I said, well, maybe that part of being a nun I was. But as a Catholic schoolgirl, I don't think you've experienced some of the same things
No,
as
Karen,
I did
I was never a Catholic schoolgirl.
in this movie. And also, this movie to me, as a woman, was very political, I think.
Oh,
I mean, and I dig it. Like it's very, there's a scene where she is laying on a table without spoiling a lot, a medical thing
we're going to spoil it anyway, eventually, but
where she's begging for help and there's all these people around her and they do absolutely nothing. And it's like in our current political environment and other times as a woman, you can feel that. Like everybody's just like, yeah, too bad for you. Okay. Or when she's trying to remove what's inside of her and everything is done to prevent that. You know, it's very feminist. It's very, this is how women are treated in the church and in religion, at least to me. That's how I saw it, watching it as a woman who has been in that church life and kind of would always question that as a kid, like, well, why don't I get to do anything? Like, what's my role here? So I don't know if you think about those things when you're watching it. I thought the effects were pretty good overall. That's kind of all I really did like it. What do you got? You gonna correct me?
no, well, first let me answer your question about your feminist take on this whole thing and how it is very political or whatever you said for women. I totally get that, but I would not have thought of that until I read the review I have.
Oh, okay. So
But
you
I
didn't
totally
experience it, but you can see it.
no, no, no. And I read the review
Oh,
before
did
I
you read it
watched it.
before?
I did.
Okay.
So I don't honestly, I guess I can't say, but I doubt that I would have felt that. I didn't even know this was a female director.
I was going to ask you, I'm like, I bet it is a female
It is,
director. Yeah.
but
Okay.
it's not obvious by the name.
No,
I don't think. All
I
right.
didn't pay attention, and then but then I thought I should at least know that, and then I forgot to look it up. So that doesn't surprise me.
I wrote it has a nice hue to it. It's visually, it's got a nice hue. I don't know what
But
that means. You're a
it's
photographer. Explain that.
it's kind of 70s. It's got that
Yes,
chroma color
exactly.
or whatever to it.
It's
That's what I
period.
mean
The
with the
first,
mood.
actually, the first thing I wrote, it seems period.
Yes.
And I wrote nice hue, and then I wrote nice shots. There's some nice mirror shots in it. I don't know why I like these reflection shots, but I do.
There's
And I
some
make a note
gorgeous
of them.
shots in the church where she's praying and the candles all surround her. There's just,
It's true. And that was
and
one of the posters, so I've seen that
oh, really?
image before. Yeah.
But there's shot after shot after shot like that where it's just it's stunning. It stops you almost from looking at it. You pause at how beautiful some of it is.
I also wrote it's good casting, but specifically because of the actor playing Father Brennan, because he's in The Omen, the 1976, whatever, Omen, right? And he looks like, of course, that actor is gone that played Father Brennan in The Omen, but this actor looks like he could be a younger version of him.
He does. I was confused by that actually a little bit.
And I assume I haven't looked him up and looked at his pictures and whatnot, but I assume it's his natural face and they didn't augment it or anything with AI or any of that bullshit. Or even though my cocktail is AI.
But he was cast not only for how he looks, he was still good.
Yeah.
He wasn't just shoved in there because he looked like the guy. He
No,
did well.
it's good acting. All the
Yeah.
actors were good.
Yeah.
I recognize the Cardinal from Harry Potter and Underworld.
He
He's a good
plays a
actor.
good villain.
Yeah, very British, probably Shakespearean, trained or whatever. It's very good. I thought the makeup was good, or the lack thereof. The effects were good. I like the twist. I didn't really know. I didn't read the plot before I watched it, so I didn't really know what happens. And I like the kind of twist at the end. And I wrote something about the hair. It's always good.
It's Medusa hair. Yeah, she
Yes.
always
When
has
she's laying
Medusa.
down, yes, it's spread out.
Yeah. And then
And
the
it's
doorknob
very
looks like
effective.
Medusa too. And I didn't put together what there's a lot of English papers in this movie.
There is,
Like there's a lot of things that you could pick out and write about.
especially in a Catholic school setting,
No, I don't
Karen.
think they would like it. I think it's a commentary on things that they wouldn't
You mean they
particularly.
wouldn't reward you for your insight and enlightenment and
To be
seeing
fair, they
themes?
keep the theme of the church never comes out well in these movies, and
No, they
that's
never do. It's
so.
yeah, it is. Well, I won't necessarily agree with that.
Sometimes it does, like The Exorcist and things like that,
Well,
actually brings
the
people
Omen, the
into the
church is
church.
fine. Actually,
True.
we'll get to it when I talk about things I don't like. But pretty much in all the Omen films I've seen, the church comes out pretty good, except for this one.
In general, in horror films, I should
And
specify, in general, the church doesn't usually come out well.
I mean, of course, in the Omen, it begins with
There's
the
deception,
people from the church are giving him this child.
and there's a
But
plan
this
there.
takes it to another level.
Yes. But there still was a plan.
There was a plan.
There's deception. And it's sad watching her go through everybody deceives and disappoints and betrays her through this whole movie.
That's all I have written down, Karen. Is there anything you did not care for?
Okay, and again, because maybe I'm not as knowledgeable as I should be. Parts of it were confusing for me. I couldn't understand for until the twist. I could not understand why are they bringing this girl, this orphan from basically the middle of nowhere United States to Rome to do her vows. Like it just like why are they plucking her out? Why just her,
You
why
mean
her?
you mean all nuns don't go to Rome to do their vows and get
Like
their habit and all that shit?
it just seemed
See,
like
I didn't even think of that because I'm
why
not. I don't know.
why did they do why? It just seems so odd that they would do that. And so for most of the film I'm like I don't get it. What's going on? Why is this girl and I don't know if this is something I didn't like, but it's something I noticed that she's so manipulable. Like she's in the she seems very innocent and her roommate who's becoming a nun, which that was let's go out. Okay. Let's drink shots. Okay. Let's or just come over to Rome and she's like, "Okay." Like it just seemed like
Well,
I
we
don't
learned
know.
she is an orphan and she has lived her whole life in the church. In an
Yes, which
orphanage very much like the one she is in now. But that's
yes,
all I have to
but
say. Go on.
which I don't know. And there were things that were confusing to me. I didn't know who was who a little bit, like why the one nun kills herself. Which is an homage to the other. I get the connection, but I don't know why it happened. So the main story was there, and I like a good origin story. So I really liked this to see what happened beforehand. It's a little confusing because I thought there was a jackal in her grave. So I don't know. Like I got like what did I miss? I was trying to put it together. So my head's running the whole time trying to figure it out. And so that part of it, I just couldn't until the twist. Then it kind of goes, I'm like, something's coming because they wouldn't have brought her to, like, what all this stuff is happening. I don't know why. And then boom, oh, okay, I get it. She talks about she was, traumatic. I don't know. There were just a couple confusing things, but overall, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I thought the acting was really good. They had a good range of nuns. They all weren't old and awful. There were some yuck, there was a mix, which is nice. But I think it does stand on its own. You don't have to see the others in order to understand it. It helps a little in some ways, but I think it's confusing in others. That's all I have. Do you have anything you didn't like?
So first, I'll agree with what you just said. You don't have to know the others to enjoy this. Actually, you probably might enjoy it better if you don't. I don't know. But I wrote a couple things down. I think the music is a little much at times.
Really? I liked it.
It's good, but I wonder why they didn't use any of Jerry Goldsmith's original themes from all three of the original Omen trilogy. Because he did the music for all of them.
Yeah,
So I don't
you'd
know.
think somewhere,
Maybe it's
or
a money thing. I don't know.
maybe, or just a little at the end or something,
There was a little homage. We heard Ave Satani or whatever there a couple times, but it wasn't the same music. It wasn't the music,
Yeah.
the chant. They do change the backstory a little bit in this film, alluding to what you said about the jackal, which I'm very proud of you, Karen.
Oh,
Very
thank you.
proud. I'm so happy you remember that there was a jackal in her grave.
Well, but that doesn't mean they could have just put it there or something, right? Like,
I guess.
but that was the whole thing. Like he was born from a jackal. And then this one they switch it. So you do see the father is a jackal. So
Yes. Yeah. In the original, the mother is a jackal. And also the whole Skiana thing. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I I know that the mother in the original Omen was Maria Skiana or Skiani, whatever. I don't know why. I don't know. Why couldn't they just, well, maybe because they wanted to trick
I think it
moviegoers
was a
and
red
didn't want to
herring.
give it away
Yeah.
early
Like
that her
we
name was
were,
Maria or whatever. Skiania. And I don't like how it kind of So in my bookmarks, Karen, I have a website called the Omen Chronicles. It's
Of
like an Omen
course.
fan site. And I kind of looked at what he thought of this film when the guy who runs it in his blog, when he went and saw it. And full disclosure, I read it before I watched the movie. So he didn't hate it, and I don't hate it. But he wonders kind of like I do, and maybe I wonder because he wrote it that why are they changing it? Like the Omen, it's like people bringing about Armageddon. Like they're trying to bring the Antichrist to come to life and rule the world, Karen. But in this, they changed it so the church is trying to bring something evil into the world to bring more people to the church. And I don't know. I don't probably if
Well,
I didn't read that, I wouldn't care about it as much, but the more I think about it, the more I care about it.
well, people change. Their goals in life, their goals and dreams change. So at first they thought, well, we'll just bring people to church. And then they think, I'm going to rule the world. I didn't
Well,
understand.
aren't they the same thing, Karen? You want to bring people to church to rule them, and then you want to rule the world.
It's
It's the same
power.
thing.
It's power. Why were there twins? Like what?
That I have no idea.
Oh,
Well,
I didn't know if he,
I do have an idea. My idea is sequel potential.
yes, of course. I did write that at the
Another
very end.
prequel between, this and The Omen. That's the only reason that I can see.
I would have, well,
I mean, you have all kinds of sequel potential. You still have Margaret. Spoilers, boys and girls. You still have Margaret. You still have Carlita, and you have Margaret's daughter,
yes,
who is the spawn of Satan, apparently. So, all kinds of sequel potential.
you think that's why they did it?
I do. Hollywood money grab.
Well, maybe it'd be good too, but I liked the ending too, where they pull the file out and it's Gregory Peck, like in the car. Like all of it was very well done, I thought.
I did.
It's full
I agree.
circle, except for that they're off in the. I didn't quite
I
get
kind
that.
of wished that they would have done like an AI Gregory Peck, kind of like Star Wars did with their prequels or I guess specifically Rogue One when Darth Vader is like killing all the people and Princess Leia is there and it's an AI Princess Leia and whatever, or computer enhanced Princess Leia. I was kind of hoping they do something like that at the end where we actually see someone that looks like Gregory Peck in person, but I wasn't mad. And that probably, some people probably would think that would cheapen it if they did that.
Maybe.
So it's fine. Anything else, Karen?
No,
Would you like to hear a review from the time, Karen?
absolutely.
First, I have to tell you, Karen, this has an 83% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. What do you think Google users think, Karen?
88%.
Way over.
Really?
69%.
69.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's unusual.
Yeah, I agree. The review I have is from April 4th, 2024, and it is from RogerEbert.com. But of course, Roger is no longer with us. So it is from a reviewer named Tomris Laughley, who is a female. So maybe that, I don't know, skews her review or whatever. And I'm going to read most of it. I'm going to omit the part that tells the plot and what happens throughout the film, because that's what we're going to do shortly. The miracle of life can be messy business, you hear in The First Omen, a stunning prequel to Richard Donner's timeless horror classic The Omen, about the evil doings of a demonic orphan adopted by a pair of unsuspecting Americans in London. And just like in the recent Sydney Sweeney starring religious gaslighting knockout Immaculate, it is a messy, skin-crawling business indeed, considering the life created is no other than that of the Antichrist. Two genres of films that revel in supernatural Catholic horror? In this economy? You might rightfully ask. But allow this critic to assure you that you should consider yourself lucky for this contemporary time in movie theaters that gleefully slices up an abdomen and lets it hemorrhage as if it's the bloody 60s or 70s out there. In that, if immaculate is a fiendish wink towards the giallos and nunsploitation flicks of the era, then the massively talented first-time feature director Arkacia, I guess that's her name. Sorry, Arkacia, or Miss Stevenson. The First Omen is both in the latter camp and a first-rate paranoid thriller with a vintage tinge a la Rosemary's Baby. But first and foremost, The First Omen is proudly an Omen movie with all its symbolism, the 70s vibes, an earthy color palette, and insidious characters intact, ones that will linger and multiply once you turn your lights off nightly. So if the idea of a legacy prequel to a classic made you roll your eyes at first, think again. Not only does Stevenson, alongside her co-writers Keith Thomas and Tim Smith, remind us what made the line, "It's all for you, Damien," so chillingly iconic back in 1976, they also instantly justify the need for an origin story for Damien, the Antichrist parented by an American diplomat and his wife, played by Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. And then she has in parentheses, the new film's homage to Peck is both wonderful and a cue that you can run straight back home and press play on Donner's film for an experience as seamless as watching the first two Halloween movies back to back. The most exciting thing about The First Omen is how Stevenson is an evident scholar of the supernatural horror genre, unmercifully playing with our perception and orchestrating an escalating sense of paranoia with ease. In that, rather than unsettling the audience with subtle, suggestive scares and overloading the story with trauma-based angles, she gives a first-rate motion picture in the old school way. Smartly agile, elegantly filmed, and damn scary with a stunning period production design and costuming, as well as touches of neo-realist mise-en-scene with immersive as they come. I don't know, she has like accent marks on letters in that word. But that doesn't mean her film is sans contemporary meaning. Far from it. In that, it's a pleasant surprise how The First Omen plays like a more serious companion piece to Immaculate in spotlighting the hypocrisy of religion, one that rings timelessly true both in the narrative's decades-old period and in today's post-Roe versus Wade world. In fact, the painful and political loss of one's bodily autonomy is so top of mind in The First Omen that it unleashes onto the world one of the most shocking birth scenes of cinema, perhaps ever, confronting the audience with what that pain really looks like and how demonic it just might feel. The whole thing is so provocative, beautifully cinematic, and in touch with its head decapitating roots that you will forgive the slight drag in its final act as The First Omen creeps towards the day Peck and Remick would swaddle Damien. It's glorious and it's all for us. And I just picked this review. I didn't read it beforehand. It's rogerebert.com, so that's the one I pick. So there you go. What kind of movie rating should we give this film, Karen?
I think it's a 2.
I'm surprised, but glad to hear you say that, Karen.
It's good. It's creepy, it's scary, it's thought-provoking, it's beautifully shot. I enjoyed it from start to finish. I kind of wish I'd have seen it in the theater. Although there are certain parts that I'm glad I didn't. Where I could, oh,
I wanted to, but we don't go out much. Kind of homebodies.
to be fair, sometimes these things just aren't good. These prequels and you think, do I want to do that? And looking back, I kind of wish I would. But I'm glad I saw it because I had a preconceived notion that I didn't think it was going to be good. I just didn't. Because the other ones were so good. How are you going to live up to that?
Well, I read a few things about it beforehand, so I was hopeful that it was going to be good. But I even liked it, I think, more than I thought I would
I
before
just
going into it.
was not expecting it to be as good as they were. And
Two cocktails, boys and girls.
almost more intense in some ways.
It is because it's more modern and
Yeah.
cinema has changed, especially horror and whatnot. So I think we gave the Omen, we gave the Omen two cocktails. I think we gave the others three, Damien and Final Conflict, probably. Don't
I
know,
don't
haven't
know.
checked. But yeah, I agree. This is a two cocktail film.
It's got it all, I think. Got something for everyone. Not
Indeed.
not romance, but depends on
Well,
how you look at it.
there's a little romance in there, Kim. There's a little. And that's another thing I don't understand. Now that you bring it up, romance, Hollow, what's his deal? He's just a regular dude. Or is he just like
But wasn't he? I think he was.
seducer and
Yeah, I think
demon comes in and impregnates her?
he was there at
Okay,
when that
yeah. All right.
happened.
He was.
But I don't think he's part of the. He said I didn't know. It's like I didn't know, but he didn't do anything to stop it. But I don't think he was part of the conspiracy. I think he just once it started, just Pontius piloted it. I washed my hands of it.
As you do. All right, Karen,
Well,
before
I don't want no, not as you do. No. Okay, go ahead.
before we go into it scene by scene, Karen, what film have you chosen for us next week?
Oh, you're gonna hate me. But it's a
No,
big deal.
Karen, no. I couldn't hate you.
You could never do
Go
anything that
on.
would. It's the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Dun 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 or dun dun.
Karen, I hate you.
I know. This podcast comes out on the 18th, and the film came out 50 years ago on the 20th.
Karen, you know I was traumatized
I was traumatized
as a
too.
child.
We've
I
talked about
still
it.
do not go into the water.
We talked about it before, how I wouldn't go in the pool.
I, I, I go in pools now, but
Now I do.
I have to take a good look around the corners. But I go in pools. All right. I've never seen it in its entirety
Well,
because I
we'll see
couldn't
how it
make it.
goes. We'll see if you'll make it through.
I got to face it, Karen. I got to face it. Do we
Face
have
your
a
fear.
cocktail to help me?
Yes, and you're going to love this. It's called the Shark Bite Cocktail. This shark bite drink is a fun cocktail that looks like the ocean water dotted with blood. You're going to need 2 cups of ice, 1 ounce of simple syrup, 3/4 ounce of spiced rum, 3/4 ounce of light rum, 1/4 ounce of blue curacao, and a half an ounce of lime juice, and 3 drops of grenadine, or as needed. You can see how much you want how bloody you want your cocktail. Fill the cocktail shaker with 1 cup of ice. Add the simple syrup, spiced rum, light rum, blue curacao, and lime juice. Cover and shake until the outside of the shaker has
Well,
frosted.
yeah, cover. That's important.
I know. 10 to 15 seconds. Fill the glass with the remaining cup of ice. Strain the cocktail over the ice. Add drops of grenadine to the cocktail.
I think I have all those ingredients, Karen.
Love when that happens. So this will be a big one. I will see if either one of us can watch it all the way through. I don't think I've seen it since I did see it all the way through. I was
have not.
traumatized, but I did watch it in the theater all the way through when I was way too young. It's probably those Sheehy kids that took me.
Probably. I know who I went with. It's one of my friends named John Phillips. I
Does
felt
John
bad. I feel bad to this day that I left him at the theater. Called my mom to come pick me up. So sorry, John.
I wonder if he goes in the ocean.
He probably does. I haven't kept up with him, but yeah, he's probably fine.
He probably went in swimming pools. Brave
Yeah,
kid.
he had a pool in his backyard. All right, are we ready to get into this film? The
I
first
don't know. Are you going to be okay? Or are
scene by
you
scene.
deep breaths? You could do it. Yes.
What are you trying to say, Karen?
That Jaws is going to traumatize you. That's all.
I'm not worried about Jaws at the moment. kind of
This
come to
movie's
grips with it.
traumatized me, so it's fair.
Yeah, this is right up my alley, Karen. This doesn't bother me at all. I love this shit.
You've just listened to half of this week's episode. Are you loving it? If so, can you do us a big favor and leave a review wherever you listen? Reviews help us grow the podcast. We just want to say thanks so much for your support. Now let's get back to the good stuff.
All right, The First Omen from 2024. Rated R, Karen. For flashing lights, violence, frightening scenes, alcohol use, smoking, foul language, sexual content, flashing lights and strobing patterns might affect photosensitive viewers. I don't know why I have to put that in there. It wasn't very long.
Oh, it can make people have seizures. Did you watch it on Amazon?
I did, Karen.
Yeah.
Now that it's $3 or $4 and not 15. Film begins. We have credits, and we see a priest walking through a cemetery, question mark, I wrote. Workers installing stained glass, question mark, I wrote. Yeah, that's probably not good for the priest. And then
But what are they using to pull it up there?
a block and tackle, right?
They are
A crane?
using a block and tackle. We talked about block and tackle, but I'm just going to say it because we always mention it, and I always mention it because it's my dad's favorite thing. He used to take trees down and do all kinds of stuff around us with the block and tackle. We didn't need no machinery. We had block and tackles.
Rope and a pulley.
Yep. 2 or more pulleys with a rope or cable threaded between them, used to provide tension and lift heavy loads. The pulleys are assembled to the blocks, and then the blocks are paired so that one is fixed and one moves with the load. The rope is threaded through the pulleys to provide mechanical advantage that amplifies the force applied to the rope. My dad's a mechanical engineer. That's why he loves this shit. So, Greg, you love the Omen. Mr. Hudson loves a block and tackle. Okay. So they're pulling up a stained glass window, up, creak, creak, creak. And then the priest is watching, and you just know. You're like,
Especially if you've seen The Omen.
yes, this is because it looks the same dreary day, black trees, walking through the foggy cemetery, the priest in the hat, the fedora.
we have 2 references here. We have the priest in The Omen getting impaled by a lightning rod, or we have the photographer in The Omen getting beheaded,
Right.
decapitated by a plate of glass. So which one is going to happen, Karen?
I don't know.
All right, but then we have credits. Then we see the priest at the confessional, and we hear the name Skiana for the first time here.
And there's nice lighting and shadow work while he's in the confessional.
And we have a cut of a girl masked and strapped to a table. And I wrote, I can't do this anymore. Is that what the priest says?
No, that's what the woman is saying.
Ah,
They've covered her face with a black bag, almost like thing. She's
Yep.
trying to gasp for air through the cloth. I said, that's quite the image. The guy said the pregnancy happened quickly. There's a lot of blood. The woman sobs and says, I can't do this anymore. Please don't let it touch me anymore.
Then the priest leaves the confessional. And the next thing I have written is, hiding won't absolve your sins. You think I want to be forgiven? Question mark. I want this all to be over. And there's an ominous look. I guess it's the 2 priests talking to each other. The one who was confessing and the one who was hearing his confession, right?
Yes. They're outside the church now, standing on the steps, across from each other. One's
Yes.
further away from the church than the other.
Ominous look, I said. And then stained glass falling from above, slow motion. But there's a pole as well, Karen. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what are we going to do here? Are we going to impale him or are we going to decapitate? I didn't know.
Still didn't know because all the glass is falling, but then you see the pole.
Yeah. But apparently the priest's skull is cut. The back of it is cut, sliced in 2 kind of, because I guess the pole kind of just like hits the back of his skull and
Takes off the back of his head in a cylindrical fashion.
yeah, he gone.
But he stands for a while.
He does. And smiles and blood comes out of his mouth.
Because
and whatnot.
he's the one who wanted it to be over, right? He's like, I'm done. I can't carry this
Yes.
burden anymore. I want it done. So when the pipe slices his brain, we don't see it at first until he turns to walk
Yeah.
away. But he's happy.
Which
He's
is
like,
nice. I liked it. I knew there was something, but I didn't know what it was going to be
I
when
was
he
like, is he
turned
gonna
around.
fall? Like, you're right. We still didn't know. Is his head gonna fall off? Is the pole gonna? What is it? And finally, it's the pole, ladies and gentlemen. It's the pole.
Then we have Words to Read, Rome, 1971. And Father Gabriel picks up Margaret at the airport, I guess. And there's lots of protesters in Rome, Karen, because of condition and wages, and they're rejecting authority.
Well,
And
actually, there was an actual movement there. It's no, I think it was called something to do with lead because so many people were killed. But
like Led Zeppelin.
no, like bullets.
Oh,
Student protests in Italy had also begun to take off in 1967, and the movement continued right through the 70s. Universities from Pisa to Turin were occupied, lecturers and school teachers were challenged in the classroom, and alternative lifestyles began to dominate youth culture. A whole generation was radicalized. Students challenged both the church and the Communist Party, as well as consumer society and traditional power of the family.
Communist Party?
What did I say?
You said communist.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're challenging everything. It started off as just protests, but then groups fractioned away and it got extremely violent. The feminist movement also invigorated society in Italy in the mid 1970s. It was later in Italy than most Western countries because, the church. Feminists challenged the rigid Catholic morals of society and legal system, and that gave women little defense against male oppression, rape, or even murder. The feminists also challenged the male dominance of politics right across the spectrum. Even the church began to open up to social and cultural change. Pope John the 23rd and Pope Paul VI called the Second Vatican Council to order. But the liberal reforms went too far, and when Pope Paul VI successor, John Paul II, was elected because he was extremely conservative. And that was in 1978. So students were going crazy. That's part of the story is true. There were massive protests that did turn violent at that time.
And Father Gabriel says that the church needs to win back the trust of the young people. Margaret arrives at the orphanage, and we learn it's a females only orphanage. Margaret meets Sister Angelica. She sees a drawing on a wall with her name on it. Margaret introduces herself to a young girl singing Ave Maria. She says it's her song too, her favorite song too. And then the girl licks her face. And we learn her name is Carlita. And we also learn she's the girl who drew the picture. Margaret arrives at her apartment, question mark.
So wait, back up. So you're right. It is an orphanage, as you said, for women only, girls only. But they also have birthing facilities and a hospital because they do bring in girls who are pregnant, who are unmarried. And that's part of then the children stay at the orphanage. Sister Angelica is she the one in the stairwell where her hair's blowing and
Probably, yes.
it was just a cool shot. But yeah, then she goes to an apartment.
And goes to her apartment, she prays, and then she meets her roommate Luz. And they talk, and we learn about Margaret's childhood in the orphanage where she grew up. She had an active imagination and needed to be subdued. Then Luz tells her story. Then we cut to nuns smoking and peeling potatoes, Karen.
Yeah, so Margaret, we find out, is from Pittsfield, Massachusetts. So I'm like, why is she in Italy about to take the veil? They're about to take the veil, which means they're going to become nuns.
I was going to ask you, is that a thing? Is that actually
Yes,
all right,
it is.
a phrase? Then we see the little girls in the orphanage teaching Margaret Italian for a minute.
But they're teaching her incorrect Italian. They're doing it on purpose, I think. They tell her they're saying she's a teacher, but she's really saying she's a butterfly. That's why the girls are giggling. It's cute.
So then apparently a girl's missing. Margaret looks for her. We see a girl strapped to a bed. I guess it's Carlita. Is this Carlita? Strapped to the bed? Don't know. But
Wait,
sister
hold
and
on. You're way ahead of me because I got more detail than you. Hold on.
I only got so many pages
I
I can
know.
go through in
I'm
an
trying to just
hour.
see where you are.
Next thing I have is Sister Angelica laughs at her and sheds a tear.
Yeah, she's creepy.
And then there's a startle scare, and Luz, I guess is her name, startles her. And apparently they're going out, Karen, because the next thing we see is Margaret checking herself out in the mirror in her going out clothes.
Yeah, she's all made up and makeup and
Yeah,
which,
she looks pretty good, Karen.
yeah, she looks beautiful.
Luz takes Margaret to a bar and tells her that she needs to understand she is a beautiful girl if only to give it up. I thought
She
that
has to
was
know what she's
important.
giving up in order to
Yes.
sacrifice, to make the sacrifice.
And then they do shots at a disco, Karen, as you do. Then two guys come up and, talk them up and they buy them a drink and then they're dancing. And then there's a Barbara Streisand reference I wrote. Barbara, Barbara.
Paulo and Margaret both like Barbara Streisand.
So Margaret makes her way to the dance floor. Paulo's, trying to get her out there. And then I wrote love connection and she licks his face, just like Carlita did
Yes,
her.
weird.
So then we cut to her lying in bed and there's a spider crawling on her face. She wakes up in bed. She doesn't remember the previous night.
And her hair is all spread out like Medusa. There, that's where that shot is.
Well,
One of them.
it comes in later too.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Margaret praying at the altar. Father Brennan is watching her. Father Brennan meets Margaret the next day. He warns her about the girl Skiana, who is Carlita, he says. He asked her to meet him that night.
Okay, so just before there, when Margaret's praying in the church, she is praying, but there's whispering and kind of like it's creepy when she's in there. She like it's almost like she's fighting off all the other thoughts to try to focus on the church because she feels like she doesn't know what happened the night before.
Then we see Margaret with the little girls. They tell her Carlita is in the bad room because she bit one of the nuns.
Margaret, she goes, "Why is there a bad room?" And the nun says, "Because some of the girls are bad."
Margaret
It's just funny.
Margaret and Sister Silva visit Carlita and she is drawing a picture. Margaret talks to Carlita. She tells her that she was a bad girl as well. They're not bad. They just don't do what the others want them to do, is what she says.
Yeah, they're having a heart to heart. She says that she
They
was
bond.
bad.
That's the next thing
Yeah,
I wrote.
yeah. She ran away, but she thinks Carlita's stronger because she stays.
Female screams. Next thing I wrote. Margaret goes to investigate a woman giving birth, apparently. Margaret watches through the windows and they give the girl some gas. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, they don't put him out all the way.
And then she smiles and she turns to look at Margaret and then screams. And then we see a hand coming out of her.
Birth
Uh,
canal.
yes. Thank you, Karen. Margaret faints. And it's a creepy hand.
Yeah, it's a devil hand. So part of this, I should say, and I realize now, and I should have written it down, is one of the things that confused me. And it's not that I liked or didn't like it. A lot of times I can't tell what's a dream and what's not. I don't know what actually happens sometimes and what doesn't. But it's a creepy hand coming out, and it's makes you want to never give birth. you know.
Margaret faints. Cardinal consoles her.
And he's like, it's okay. Lots of people faint when they see that, which I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, you just low blood sugar. But, so, and a lot of the movie is because Margaret, when she was young, she says to Carlita, had visions and she couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. And as we're seeing her descend a little bit, that's part of the movie is we can't tell what she's seeing. Turns out probably what she was seeing when she was young was real. But we're in this guesswork of is she losing her mind or is it all happening to her? But basically she's starting to remember things too along the way.
So then we see Carlita with Sister Angelica and Carlita. They have a drawing of a pregnant woman.
You skipped the part where the nuns are smoking and jumping on a trampoline.
I don't
I
know.
was like, what school is this? But okay, go ahead.
But then Sister Angelica kisses Margaret. So then they're all out in the courtyard or whatever of the school orphanage, and the girls dance around Carlita. See Sister Angelica up on a balcony, and she says, "It's all for you, Carlita." And I wrote, "She's very wet." And then she lights herself on fire. So
I
apparently
said, is she covered in gasoline?
she's
Oh,
covered
she's
in
gonna
something
set her. I
flammable.
said she's gonna set herself on fire.
Sets herself on fire and she falls from the balcony hanging by a noose. So she was going to die one way or another. Margaret visits Father Brennan.
After all this happens, because he tells her to meet him, and she thinks he's nuts, and she's not
He
gonna
does
meet
say
him.
the next day, and this is probably the next day. So
Yeah, but she doesn't feel like she's going to meet him until this whole traumatic thing happens.
when Father Brennan wants to tell her about a secret about Sister Angelica, he shows her a photo with Skiana written on the back, and they believe the baby in the photo was Carlita because it's basically the cardinal and a couple nuns and a baby. Father Brennan explains to Margaret that there are two churches, Karen. People are turning away from the church, and the church needed to create something to fear.
Yeah, they're talking, and I think this is where he says it, that what the church fears most is secularism, which
Duh.
is the principle that advocates for the separation of religion and state, ensuring no particular religion is favored or discriminated against. It also promotes the idea that individuals should have freedom of religion or non-religion, and all individuals are treated equally under the law, regardless of their religious beliefs. So again, this is very political.
I'm all for that, Karen. I'm all
Yeah.
for that. He says that a powerful group in the church leadership believed that they can birth the Antichrist.
He does mention he was excommunicated too.
Yes, as you do. Father Brennan believes that Carlita is to be the mother of the Antichrist. He says that Carlita will have the mark of the devil on her body, and he needs to know how she was born. Father Brennan tries to convince Margaret to help him. He mentions a jackal and June 6th, and Margaret
Yeah,
says, "Good day."
born on the 6th day of the 6th month at 6 a.m. He wants to know if Carlita was born then.
Margaret leaves.
Yeah, she's overwhelmed. This is too much.
So then we cut to Margaret talking to Father Gabriel on a bus, and she asks about Carlita's history. And I wrote, Sister Silva seems very interested in what she is saying.
Yeah, they get the hairy eyeball.
And then I wrote large police presence because of all the protesters, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know where they were going or what they were doing.
Because
But
next
they
thing,
went-
they're at a museum, I guess. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
they
have
went field trip.
Margaret and Carlita looking at art.
But it just was like they're just on a bus. And so we don't know what's happening or where they're going but it's a museum.
Margaret asks Carlita if anyone has ever done anything to her and gives her the eyes, like, you know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Carlita gets bad feelings and she sees things, she says, and she gets upset and leaves. And we see Carlita being comforted by Sister Angelica, even though she gone. So it's
Margaret sees that.
the zombie of or
Yes,
whatever.
she's not looking good. The burned up
Sister Carlita.
corpse. Yeah.
Cut to protesters. They all have to leave the museum.
Yeah, the protest is getting violent.
Margaret gets separated from the others, and she's grabbed by a demon hand. I wrote Sister Silva watches.
But when we see her perspective, we just see Margaret reacting with nothing.
Yes.
So we don't know we're getting the feeling that Margaret is mentally unstable, basically.
Sister Silva concerned. She wants to postpone Margaret's vows. Yes, taking the veil or whatever.
Yes.
Margaret had hallucinations while she was growing up. They argue about Carlita. Margaret is clearly unwell and she is to stay away from Carlita.
Yes.
Then we see Margaret driving in a car and she sees the guy that she was at the disco with and she
I go,
tells
I
the
think she saw
driver to stop.
Paulo.
Yeah, sees Paulo. She follows him, but he tells her to stop following him.
He's
And
freaking out.
and then he says, look for the mark. And then he's hit by a truck, Karen. He's gone. Almost.
Yeah.
Next thing I wrote, Paulo ain't quite gone yet. He is pinned by the truck.
Right before he gets hit, though, he says to her, look for the
Look
mark.
for the mark. Yeah. Margaret picks him up and she tears him in half. Now he gone, I wrote.
Yeah, that was a shock. And unnecessary, I thought. But
It's necessary, Karen. Got to clean up your loose ends.
well, no, I mean for her to hug him and then pull him and then he's cut in half.
All right. Then we see Margaret praying, and I wrote, it's a nice shot.
Yes, that's the pretty shot.
Well, yeah, it's with the candles, right?
Yeah.
All around her. So then we cut back to Margaret lying in bed, spiders superimposed over her. Then we cut to Luz getting her hair cut while the children and Margaret watch.
So Luz is going forward with her vows. They were going to do them one after the other. Luz was going to go first, then Margaret. So Margaret's it's hard for her to watch because all of this is happening for Luz and not for her.
So we see Luz taking her vows. They put a ring on her finger, and I wrote lots of Latin, Karen.
Yeah, so I didn't remember that, but many Catholic nuns wear wedding rings. I didn't remember that about it. Of course, symbolizing their spiritual marriage to Jesus Christ. This tradition, which is rooted in the idea of being brides of Christ, is a visible symbol of their celibacy vow and dedication to God. While not all orders follow the same practices, the ring is given during their final vows, making their commitment to a life of service.
So then I wrote Margaret in the cardinal's office, and I'm like, oh no, it's Sister Silva's office. And she's going through the desk. She finds a key because she's been in there before and we've seen this room before. She finds a secret room or a secret door where like some wallpaper is like there's a seam or something. I don't know. We saw it earlier. Now we have a montage, Carlita and Luz getting her habit. I wrote, seems constricting, Karen. They're tying that pretty tight.
They're tying it tight. So it's going back and forth between Margaret in the basement, basically, when she goes through this secret wall in the abbess's office, and then Luz getting her.
Abbess.
The head of the nunnery.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing, Karen. Margaret in a secret passage looking through files. Skiana folder. I wrote, born June 6, 1959, healthy but must be kept away from other girls. And then I wrote, many Skiana files. Some died at childbirth. Then we cut back to Luz, and we see a bunch of nuns laying on the ground reciting Latin, Karen. Did you catch any of the Latin they were saying there?
No, but that's their final. They have to prostrate themselves before the altar. This act
prostrate.
Yes. The act of prostration is a symbolic gesture of humility and submission to God, indicating a total offering of themselves to God's service. It typically occurs during the chanting of the Litany of the Saints. So the nuns lie there. Priests do it too. Some of them, I think they used to stack books, Bibles or something on the priests. I can't remember. They lie while the Litany of Saints is chanted, asking for the intercession of the saints for their new commitment.
Margaret takes all the files and leaves. She grabs Carlita, but the elder nuns watch. She bars the door and promises to keep Carlita safe. The others break into the room, and Margaret grabs a board from the bed and tries to ward them off, but it's of no use. They subdue Margaret. Carlita tries to grab and scratch at them. I don't know. Margaret sees the birthmark on the roof of Carlita's mouth.
Yeah, Carlita's trying to help her because they're subduing her, obviously roughly. They're subduing Margaret. Margaret was trying to protect Carlita. Everybody comes in. She's overpowered. Carlita's screaming. Margaret looks up into her mouth and sees the mark.
They lock Margaret into a room.
I think it's the bad room.
Yeah, lots of paintings and murals I wrote next.
I said it's strange pictures. I thought, is that really there? They're kind of obscene pictures on the wall for a orphanage, but I didn't say obscene, graphic is what I should say. They aren't
Yeah.
very saintly, is what I have here.
Then we see Margaret hearing voices, and she finds an emblem painted on the floor in the room. She is locked in under a carpet, and we have flashbacks. Margaret is visited by zombie Sister Angelica, I wrote. She screams. Father Gabriel comes to her and says he has found the files. He rescues her from her locked room. They go to see Father Brennan. Margaret believes Carlita is not safe. And I wrote, they don't have any bright light bulbs in this film, Karen, apparently.
No LEDs.
But I'm not mad at it. I like the hue. They all look through the files. I wrote, the beast must mate with its own offspring. So it's incestual, apparently, Karen. And
Well,
then
because I guess because no, I don't know why that was. They've only
I
birthed
think they deduced
females.
that because of all the birth defects and died at childbirth kind of things they've had. I don't know.
But yeah, they want why did they want a male?
Well, duh.
I mean, what's the big deal with that? Like why? Because they keep trying even though they're getting females. Why does it have to be a male?
Because males are evil, Karen.
It just that wasn't really explained, but
So then we see the photo of Carlita, or we thought we was Carlita. We've seen before. Baby in the photo has the mark on her head and it is visible. Margaret notices. Carlita's is not. And I'm like, ooh, what's that mean? So then they look through the files for the baby with the mark on its scalp. One file is missing,
a
the
picture.
photo of the baby.
Yeah.
The photo they
Number
have
5.
matches the one that was removed.
There was another survivor.
Margaret looks at the photo with a magnifying glass, and then there's a flashback to Paulo, and she remembers the night at the disco.
Yeah, so all of that comes back, what happened to her that night.
And we see a bald priest who we haven't seen before, except in flashbacks here and there. Then we see other nuns around her, lots of Latin. I wrote Satani. I recognize that word. And they put a hood over her head, Karen. Lots of Latin again. And she screams as a demon rapes her, basically. And then Father Brennan finds the mark on her scalp.
In his
Margaret's.
apartment. So that's a flashback. Then we come back to the apartment and he finds it. Would you have never seen it? Was it on the back of her head? Where was it?
Well, she saw it on the photo, which was the front. So it's
I
probably
know. So,
above the right eye somewhere up in
I
here.
guess
I
if
don't
your
know.
hair covers it, maybe you wouldn't notice it, but you might be like, huh, wonder what this weird thing is on my head. Did you ever do that, Greg?
Father Brennan tries to console her. Margaret says if she is pregnant, she needs it out of her now.
Yep.
They drive to a doctor for an abortion, apparently, Karen. Margaret gets sick, and they are T-boned by another car.
First, they think they're being followed, but then the car goes off in a different
Yes.
direction. They're like, oh, okay, we're not being followed, but yeah.
Shoo, we're safe.
Yeah, kabam.
And they're T-boned. Margaret exits the vehicle, and we hear church bells. Margaret convulses, and then she kind of strips off her clothes and becomes pregnant very rapidly, Karen.
She's about to give birth, it looks like. Because her water breaks, right? You saw her water break.
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
because
Well, I
that's
saw something happen.
water broke. I go, that didn't take long.
And then all these others convene around her.
All these church people, I say, surround her.
Yes,
She screams.
as they do, those church people.
And now she appears to be in a cave or something with candles and
Well, I
she's
wrote lots
restrained.
of eyeball acting right here, Karen.
Yeah.
Lots of eyeball acting because we have a shot of her eye. And Margaret tied to a table. Cardinal's there. He tells her soon it will be all over. Cardinal says he won't
Her
let anything.
cardinal, the one that's supposed to be taking care of her, is now there.
Yeah, he says
Yeah.
he won't let anything bad happen to her. He's watched over her since she was a little girl. The baby she is about to bear will redeem the church. Then we
You've
have a
been waiting your
large
whole life for this, he says.
then we have a large needle being injected, Karen. Were
Yeah,
you triggered?
yes.
But they're
I
putting
said
in
it's
her
a big
stomach.
ass needle.
I thought they put like epidurals and stuff in your spinal column
I
or
don't think
whatever.
she's sedate. She's not. It doesn't look like they.
All
Looks like
right.
they just gave her happy juice or
All
something.
right. No, a happy juice.
Because she starts laughing and smiling, and he
Cardinal
says,
says he
"Now
loves
you're
her.
ready." Yeah.
Yeah, Cardinal says he loves her. And they wheel her through the church. I wrote for the orphanage. I don't know what it is. Lots of murals on the ceiling. That's all I wrote because we see what she is seeing as she's being
The
wheeled
same
through.
murals that were in the room that she was in. That's why I don't know. I don't know.
Operating room. Nuns and doctor cut her open.
And that stuff looks rusty. I'm like, are they doing a C-section? I said, this is difficult to watch.
Believers watch. She gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The believers rejoice.
Okay, but wait. So this is where looks like they're doing a C-section. She's not completely numb because she's in a lot of pain and she's begging for help. I'm in pain. Help me. I'm in pain. Help. This was very disturbing to me. They're pulling them out of her womb and no one, everybody's just like, she sees all these people and no one will help her. I thought it was awful.
Business as usual, Karen, apparently.
And I'm like, his hand is awful. What is he wearing gloves or are his hands dirty? Like it was, but when he pulls them out, the twins, they're wrapped in the amniotic sac.
Mm-hmm.
But when that breaks, that's what breaks your water. So when she
Ah,
was outside, I was like, that's confusing to me. But
okay. So they all want to touch the Antichrist, I wrote next.
just the boy, they leave the
Just the
girl.
boy. Yeah, the Antichrist. Because the Christ is a male, of course. And the Antichrist, Karen. They're all males. They're all white males.
Of
Old white
course.
males.
Yeah.
All right. So
They're
then
like,
they
we have him. Woo.
they stitch Margaret up.
Badly.
I thought they did pretty good.
No, that was like Frankenstein
But she seems okay.
with like black, thick string.
She asks to hold him. Sister Silver tells her she did well.
Now,
Cardinal says she did God's work.
do you think Sister Silva was her mom? Did you get that feeling? Because she's like, we all
No,
need our mother's love. Because where did she come from?
I don't know. But now that you say that, maybe she is.
I think she kind of, that's the feeling I got. Because she was like, yes, we all need a mother's love, don't we, Margaret? And she's acting like, because I think she's tried before with the devil, Sister Silva.
So then Margaret grabs a scalpel and stabs the cardinal in the neck. He gone. She takes the baby and holds the others off with the scalpel. She goes to stab the baby, but she can't do it.
Yeah, she couldn't do it. I don't know if I could
She's
do it
weak.
either. Because the baby was crying and looking, like,
Sister Silva takes the baby from her. Luz then stabs Margaret with a scalpel. So Luz turns on her. Her roommate, Karen.
yeah,
You ever have any roommates turn on you?
yeah. Not like that.
Sister Silva tells them to burn everything and leave them to die. Carlito watches. Then I have fire. Margaret grabs her daughter. Carlita helps them escape. And then we see the priest giving a photo of Robert Thorne to Luz. And there's a montage of Catherine Thorne from The Omen giving birth, even though we don't see Lee Remick at all.
No, she gives birth and the baby's. I think they just take the baby. They don't even.
They do. They kill
Yeah.
the baby. And then Margaret and Carlita in the snow-covered mountains, I wrote. Daughter is now 3 or 4 years old, looks like. So there's been a time jump here.
Yeah.
Father Brennan arrives. Margaret holds him off at gunpoint. Well, she's got a shotgun, actually. He warns her that they weren't supposed to survive. They will be coming for her and the girl. Father Brennan leaves, but before he leaves, he tells her son's name is Damien.
But why are they why are they going to come for them? Do they need them to birth more antichrists or what? What?
You have to You have to cover your loose ends, Karen. Didn't I already say that?
Like people are going to believe that they birthed the Antichrist. They're just off in the mountains by themselves, living away from everyone.
Or maybe the Antichrist could be vulnerable to them because he may have some attachment to them.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Star Wars. Credits, the end. All right, Karen, what'd you think of the First Omen cocktail? Mine
Pretty
is not
good.
quite evaporated. It will shortly, though, I'm sure.
It's nice and red.
It's very fruity,
Yeah.
cherry, very cherry.
Which I don't know what that has to do with it, but unless, she was unknown to a man before the devil got her, and that's why it has to be that way. I don't know.
Well, if I didn't tell you it was made by AI, would you care?
No, but sometimes the drinks they have these names, but you're just like, well, okay, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's what this is. Okay, I guess. It's
Doesn't
fine.
matter. It's a tasty
I'm
drink.
not mad at it.
No.
It is good. Could have had some Campari in there, Karen. All right, anything we learned today?
We touched on the block and tackle. We talked about secularism, whether Catholic nuns wear wedding rings, which they do. What happens when they're doing their final vows, about the riots in Italy.
Is that prostration, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. And take the veil is a thing, apparently,
Mm-hmm.
according to
Yes.
Catholic Karen. All right. Anyone you need to thank, Karen, for this episode?
Well, I need to thank the listeners.
You want to thank your childhood priest at your church or anything?
Father Bushmiller, no.
Okay.
No, just the listener. There's a lot of
Okay.
podcasts out there. We do appreciate when you spend time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you have to thank?
Karen, I need to thank our friends and listeners in the Netherlands
Nice. Anyone else?
and Verse 13, the band, for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
Because the music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.